Self-employed is definitely a spectrum. I'm Cheryl Wilkes, and I'm a mortgage broker with Dominion Lending Centers, Brokers for Life. Self-employed people do not always need 20% down. We've got programs as simple as you have 2 years worth of taxes and you can show that you've paid yourself X amount of dollars. They're a normal 5% down if they're moving into it. There's the kind of the mid-range where you've been in your industry for say 3+ years. We can show some stability in the company itself to say you could viably pay yourself X amount of dollars, but maybe you've been paying yourself as a self-employed person a little less over the last couple of years. It's what we call like a stated program. So as long as we're using a reasonable amount of income. I can't claim a cab driver makes $300 a year, but your trades in that say 70, 80,000, whatever the kind of Alberta standard is, they generally will let us use. They look at the federal standard too on what does the average person make in this type of industry. We are allowed to state those. Those programs are normally kind of 10%, maybe 15% depending on credit and all the other scenarios, but definitely doable with less than 20% down for self-employed people. But again, it's one of those things that generally that's where I want to have that in-depth conversation with the person to say, okay, what type of self-employed are you? How long have you been self-employed? Where's the strength and what's all the different moving facets so that we know what is the best advice to give, and do they need 5% or do they maybe need 20%? And the paper that all these lenders ask for with all these different programs heavily changes too. Mortgages and side hustles are fun. Lots of people right now have a full-time job and then they've got a part-time job or the side hustle. The key is, are you claiming them? If your side hustle is something cash and something where it's not being T4'd, like your Uber drivers and things like that, you have to claim it on your taxes. It has to show up to CRA for us to be able to validate it. If it is something where you just work full-time and you went and got yourself a part-time weekend job, that's a little easier, of course, because there's a T4 and a pay stub that comes with it. Generally, the main thing lenders are also looking for is that you've had both of those roles, or at least a part-time and full-time, for at least 2 years, because they gotta make sure you're not gonna burn out. Most people can obviously handle a 40-hour work week, but if you're choosing to work 60, not everybody can do that. A lot of people will start and then they burn out after 6 months. The lenders need to know if they're going to use that income for qualifying, that that's actually sustainable and that'll be going. 2 years seems to be the benchmark on that, but we have had some flex over the years after kind of 12 months. Having bad credit is not the end of the world. It just means that the lenders are looking for stability elsewhere. So our main 3 things that they're generally looking at is your credit, your income, and your down payment. So if you have credit that's been hurt in the past, or what I would jokingly call like a speed bump or two, whether that's something small or something large, the key is to make sure that we know what it is, and then I can properly at least advise people on here's the quickest way to come back from whatever that was that affected your credit. Build a plan around that. If they're wanting to purchase sooner than it takes to fix it back to like say what we call like a normal credit score, it's doable, but they're going to be looking for strength elsewhere. So they're going to be looking for larger down payments, and they're generally looking for a little more income strength. So if you've been at your job for quite a while and we can explain why the credit had that hiccup, or you've been in your industry for quite a while and you had a job loss in the middle, that's why. As long as I can explain the situation, the larger down payment generally is where most lenders will focus with the credit scores that are lower, but again, it's case by case on the reasoning why the credit got to that. That's always like number 1 focus when you talk to people with lower credit scores. If something has gone wrong in another transaction with like a different lender or different broker or like somebody else, and I'm brought in to kind of try and fix things, really, we've gone start to finish in a week. Generally, I would say 2 weeks is probably a safe kind of amount of time prior to them person trying to get keys, because that gives us a couple of days to get the approvals, get the documents reviewed, and then get everything to the lawyers, because the lawyers process isn't the quickest. So for us, it can be a matter of days, but we always have to make sure the lawyers have their time to do their part. The primary role of a mortgage broker that I feel like everybody knows about is, of course, we help people get financing to purchase their first home. That being said, I like to take it one step farther. I make sure that people understand what it is that they're signing, what are the terms and conditions. So it's kind of half educator, and then also obviously the net end result of helping them go from being a tenant or a renter or something like that, maybe into being a homeowner. The main thing I would say from my perspective as a mortgage broker is how many questions did I ask? Like, what is the plan? Have we talked about paying your mortgage off quicker? Is that a priority or not? Have we talked about potential for moving? And you've already built a strategy with them up front for their end net result so that we can plan properly from the start to make sure that we are heading in the right direction.